and I'm proud that I was. I just see this generation, another 7 million black men were involved in stop and frisk, where a police officer can put his hands all over a black man and he's got to take it. And again, listen, wh- what do you think was going to happen to the next two generations? So when I see these clips of young black males disrespecting elderly black males, what did you expect for them to do? I mean, the emotional part, and Torrin, sometimes I don't pay attention to social media. The shit's not real. It's good for entertainment, but it's really not real. But when I see people coming at you and I see the emotion that black men are displaying. I mean, it's not a feminized energy. It's this raw emotion, almost like wanting to cry to you. And I'm saying to myself, what wow. That and I don't want to say the state won, but damn, it just you look at the state of black males today and you just have to ask yourself, wow, I know this happened so fast. I know they threw the war on drugs on us. I know, look at those unemployment numbers. Look at those educational numbers. Look at every sort of black young child they try to throw into special ed. I know there's so much that you can throw at black males because we sort of realize historically we are the black revolution. And listen, I'm not taking anything away from black women. Black males are the black revolution. If if you can deliver violence, you're going to be part of this. The state knew exactly what they were doing, and they succeeded by large. But it's again, Torrin, trying to land this. It's I can't relate because I just don't fuck with certain people. That's all. And listen, because I know how I'm going to react if you try to disrespect me to my face. The Twitter stuff, the social media, man, I don't get caught up in the emotion of that. I came from the poorest of the poor in inner city Chicago to making more money in 1 year than my dad made in 20 years. So I understand how the system works. But the feminization of black men and for them not to be able to see it, they're soldiers of the state now. I'm sorry, I think one of your guest speakers talked about that. And I'm not saying people are enemies, but I know how to make a good enemy is what I'm trying to say. I think W.E.B. Du Bois said that better. He said, it's not who you're going to make friends with. You got to know how to make an enemy. And so I sort of stay away from the drama because I know where it's going to lead to. Nobody's going to respect me because I'm 61 and I've done these things. I sort of understand that because I also understand that the pain and trauma that young black males, the last two generations, have gone through. I had a strong black male father. I can't listen, there's no price tag that you can put on that. There's no replacement. And I'm not saying that moms aren't important. Of course they are. But I was taught how to be a man by my father. And if you don't have that person, it is very difficult to learn to respect the culture. And lastly, the whole point is if the state can, if any oppressive counterinsurgent actionable can make you wasn't going to get him in trouble. That's the difference between my generation and the generation today. The generation today, they don't understand the consequences of being with somebody who can deliver violence. He knew he was in a safe, feminized space. He knew that. And so he showed off. And that's how I see it. He showed off. You catch him on the corner of 112th and Wentworth in Chicago, he will get beat down. They'll find him in Lake Michigan, is what I'm trying to tell you. So he was in a soft space and he took advantage of that. That's all I got to say about that, Torin.
I feel you.
Torin, I just wanted to, in 20 seconds, is it okay?
Go ahead.
I want to
go right
respect
ahead.
the room. I'm sorry.
Go ahead, brother.
Oh, Tony, brother, I didn't know you was in the Wild Hunters, brother. I'm in Dalton, 149th. And it's funny because people that don't know the area be like, oh, that's the suburbs. Okay. But we got to DM and link up, man. But I just wanted to, I think you hit it on the head. And I think that you do a good job of taking a lot of our scholarship, which can be dense and like really boring and not really, and you get to the crux for our people, man. So I know you don't hear it a lot. So I have to show that love. I'm done.
Hey, Charles, I appreciate the kind words. No, they don't know Dalton is no suburb. Listen.
No. Harvey and Dalton is having a moment right now. So, yes, I'm trying to chill.
You both know that you cross some lines. You get to Dalton, you better watch yourself. That's all I'm going to say.
It's been a long time since the Pope was born here. The Pope is from Dalton for people that listen. It's been it was lily white then. It's 99. It is 98% black now. But I just wanted to show you love, man, because the convo is a good one, brother. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, Torin.
Go ahead.
Why do we care? Why do we care about why that nigga was yelling? And I'm serious. I'm about tired of. No. I'm so sick of evaluating niggas' feelings, man. Like, bro, everything is feel, and I'm only 36. Like, so I could not imagine by the time I get to that dude age, my guy Tony. I mean, I'm gonna be so fucking. Bro, all this feeling shit, bro. No, like to the point of the disrespect. Disrespect begets equal and opposite reaction. This, like, why I like what I'm saying is, just to go on, I'm gonna keep reiterating, Torin, because we have gotten so used to the intellectualization of human nature that we are crippling ourselves with thought versus actions in a lot of situations. Like that guy, we should be finding that guy's social media and ostracizing him until he wants to come out and make a public apology to Clifton Powell, or at least have a open minded discussion that actually is open minded or fair to that. Like, you know what I mean? Because
brother,
it's not
the only thing that's gonna fix that individual dude is getting him and his daddy on the phone. Until that happens, that dude gonna be mad at the world. But I hear what you're saying, though.
Yeah, but everybody got a damn daddy that, like, fuck it, man. Like, it doesn't, like, I'm all right. Fuck it. Bro, I'm from the poorest place in the United States, bro. No bar none. All that daddy shit. Mom was on crack. Daddy drove trucks. All that, bro.
Is because I'm a student of human nature, but just because of the nature of what I do, and I like paying attention to what people's motivations is. Like Tony said earlier, if you go back and look at that tweet I put up when I said that started all this, when I said that it's a lack of men in these households that got these dudes acting like that, you go back and look at the responses, man. There's people calling me everything under the sun, but they're calling me that from a distance, because I ain't trying to piggyback on what Tony said, but Tony has some years on me. But I grew up from that era too. Like, I'm from Duval County. I'm from Jacksonville, Florida. And I grew up in a place where, like, when you run your mouth, you got to either stand on what you said, because somebody finna come to your house and see you about that, or you got to either deal with it, or you're going to have to deal with it one way or the other. Either you pull back what you said or you deal with it. This new generation is all internet gangsters. You know what I mean? And everybody can get online and they can talk all this crazy stuff because you in California somewhere and I'm over in Atlanta. And it sounds good because you ain't got to really deal with no consequences of it. And I think that's what the difference is between some of these cats. And I do want to push back on something Tony said earlier. I think it's something that a lot of us don't realize, that we're coming into two generations of boys who literally have been raised by the television and the internet, for real. When you got when you, I know y'all see it, when you're out somewhere, you see 2 and 3 year old babies who can barely walk in strollers, but they know how to work a phone. We're 2 generations deep into that. And what goes on in that phone is really reality to these kids. And they think saying something sassy to somebody, or saying something, or running somebody down, or running somebody slick, or saying something slick and getting a bunch of likes on that, that's equal to really checking somebody and having the actual discourse. That's true. And it's so crazy now, it's to the point where, like, that's moved into politics. Some of y'all probably remember, and I'm going off on a tangent real quick, but some of y'all probably remember those political spaces that was happening up until Kamala got beat last year, 2 years ago. And you had full grown people who were in the side on the bag for the Democrats, who were in their 40s and 50s. I know some of them that was talking real crazy on this app to people who were undecided voters, and they basically thought they was going to walk into the White House and get a job at Kamala. And then when the inevitable happened, then people ain't nowhere to be found. It's been a year and a half, and some of the people I ain't seen in damn near 18 months. So I'm saying that to say that this online stuff is really become a sort of matrix where people really do believe the stuff that happens on these apps really is connected to real life. And if people who are in their 40s and 50s don't understand that, imagine what somebody 25 and 30 is doing.
Oh no, you did on the money with that one. That I didn't, I don't jump in on it. But yeah, no, I hate when people say that, bro. I'm a person on the phone, and you a person on the phone. Every one of us is a person on the phone. So if the internet not real, that means none of our bills is. Real. That's why you see me go so hard on social media, because when bitches say stupid shit on social media, that shit that's just somebody that can vote, that's letting you know what they actually think, that they're not going to tell you at a Chili's at the dinner table. That's all social media is. Social media is just people's innermost thoughts that they feel fine with saying here that they would never say at the dinner table. That's all it is. But they vote. They are in charge of your children's school boards. All of these things, all of this shit matters. Like everything that we experience as humans matter, but it only matters from the basic standpoint of what is your goal, and what does this lend to your goal. That's what it matters. So when you're doing things, you should be propagating them based off of what you want to see be happening and what is occurring right now. I land right there.
Appreciate it. Charles, did you want to respond? Because I know you had your hand up, but they will bring in some new speakers because some people have been waiting patiently. Charles, go ahead.
Oh, I got to cut out in a little bit, man. We talked about that earlier, man. But look, you put on a hell of a space, man. I hope y'all stay. I'm gonna make sure I'm checking in on this. I really want to check in with everybody, man. I would just say, man, about that internet life and real shit. It kind of is, and let me tell you why though. Because this shit has led to people losing jobs and losing livelihoods. Like these companies don't want that smoke, and so while on one level I do agree, like, man, this shit is it's not real life, it's bullshit, but like it's really impacting. And I'm speaking as somebody who lived in 4 shelters and went to 11 elementary schools. Like, Torin, my story. Like, my parents was crackheads until they wasn't. They got their shit together. God bless them. My dad did what he could do. So to somebody like that, where I watched my dad lose a job, and then we in 2 months later, we in a shelter, you know what I'm saying? Just because of how things are. He did what he could, you know what I'm saying? But so I do think that some people are a little bit more cognizant of that stuff, especially if you are in one of those academia jobs. Like Tony was touching on that. Like I'm in academia, Tony's in academia, and I do want whoever else is in academia to stand up and say something, because this shit happens over there and it happens so differently and so stealthy, and they use every bit of your authenticity against you. You tell somebody, man, look, bro, you're gonna end up with a hand around your throat in a minute, bro. They try to get you up out of there. And so, it's the factory. I call it a factory that I went to and got my doctorate in, man. There was a lot of non-Black people, many white women, that were supposed to be getting trained to go into places where it's Black kids. And I spoke up against that shit, and I spoke up against it the whole time. sometimes them people try to bubble up and say something and call you something, or they see you got a job, or when one of my books came out, or they talking to the place hosting my book talk, or stuff like that, man. That people that remember me standing up like that. So it shouldn't be real, but in many of the people that we trying to show that we got their back and we got love for them, we want them to stand up. I ain't got no kids, man. I've been very, I've been very focused and all that stuff. But I got homies that got 3 and 4 kids. You know what I'm saying? They got a wife. And they're like, look, is this the moment to blow it up? Or is that the moment? And them decisions, you shouldn't have to make those decisions. But shit, it is what it is. But man, God bless. I'm going to stick in for a little bit, but I'm going to sneak out in the back.
Appreciate it. Well, let me clarify this before I go to the new hands, because I'm not saying that this doesn't have an effect on people's lives, because I know it does. I mean, hell, I built the whole brand off just being on here. But what I'm saying is, I came to social media with a whole backstory and as a full-grown adult. I didn't come into this like 8 or 9 years old and 10 or 15. So the way I act on here is the way I act in the streets, and the way I act with other people and everything. I talk to people in here, even if I type it out, the way I would talk to anybody else, even if I disagree with them. All that rah-rah and all that yelling, that's what I'm talking about. People who just are used to interacting and socializing, just being on this app and being on all these apps, because they talk to each other crazy on these apps, and they try to take that out into the real world, like you saw in that clip. And then when you end up in the emergency room holding ice to your jaw, you wonder what happened. That's what I'm saying, because if you don't have that background, if you don't understand the consequences of being around men, like Tony said, and like Rick said, and like Charles said, then this is what happens. So I just want to make that clear. But I want to move on with the conversation. I want to stick to this. And Tony, please stay on the mic, because I want to get back to you with this before we move to the next part. Let's go to Julian, the blue. I'm butchering your name because I only see half of it.
Out to all the kings that have been up here on the panel speaking so far. I'm absolutely loving it. I listen to that panel, and what I hear is a bunch of men who are not raised by men, who are raised by 2-3 generations of women in the same house, and learn what it is to be a man from women instead of learning what it is to be a man by the actions of other men around them. And there's something that happens when you grow up in that environment. When you grow up surrounded by women, you start to adopt their perspective of not just the world around them, but other men, and how you're supposed to emote, how you're supposed to carry yourself, what is expected of men. And as we know, my mom is actually the one who always told me that women say half of what they feel and mean half of what they say, that there's always more to the story. And when you listen to a lot of these men, I hear that exact same mentality coming out. And while we all want to be advocates for our moms and our sisters and our grandmas, the reality is those Black men that were up there on that panel, which was put together by an organization that is not about men's issues, it's about women's issues. It's about abortion. It's about things like that. It's like a bait and switch. We're gonna collectivize a bunch of men who already rock with our point of view, and then we're gonna put them on a panel together to discuss our point of view, and we're gonna frame it as dealing with men's issues. Mind you, they stood up there the entire time making villains out of Black men. And what I heard a lot of was the attack on the patriarchy, and I wanted to address that specifically, because what most people equate to being the patriarchy are not all men. It's not the 99% of men in society that are going around, going to work jobs, want to take care of their families, want to be good dads, be stewards of their communities, and want to build a legacy. It's the 1% of men, or the 0.001% of men who run everything from the shadows. And I won't even say from the shadows, because they're so rich And they live such extravagant lifestyles that they don't fear anything, and they will flat out come out and tell you exactly what they're planning on doing to your face because they know damn well you can't do shit about it. When women talk about the patriarchy, they're talking about what they're referring to as them. Now, a while back, I had posted, and I believe I sent it to you, Torin. I'd posted and I'd written an article about it, about the idea of divine masculinity. And I wrote, and my point was, and I had referenced the movie Troy. And in the movie Troy, you have multiple different views of masculinity. Toxic masculinity from the female perspective would be Agamemnon. And toxic masculinity from the male perspective would be Paris, the Prince of Troy. When a woman sees a toxic masculine man, she sees a man who will manipulate, beat, and screw over women and other men in society. The guys who are absolute villains in the way that they interact with everyone around them. When we see a toxic man, we see a weak man. We see a man that makes society have to answer for his failures and ultimately makes a victim of everyone around him due to his own ineptitude. And then you see multiple examples of what I call divine masculinity. Achilles, Odysseus, and Hector. Hector would be the ideal version of a masculine man, the man that is willing to die by his honor and sacrifice everything for those around him, who is always putting himself as the shield against the wolves, or the sheepdog against the wolves, absorbing arrows to protect his community, his family, and the people around him, the steward of his community. Odysseus and Achilles to a lesser degree, but still it fits. Even with their flaws, they still represent an idea of divine masculinity. Hearing these types of panels go down, and as the brothers had already said, I can't remember who was up and said it because I was in the middle of trying to cook dinner and shit. I hear, Black men have always been the ones who get the brunt of everything in society. We have been overtly targeted. So the feminist movement was about white women displacing the white male patriarchy on their side of the aisle. And then they tried to filter it into the civil rights movement. It was laced with a heavy amount of Marxism and shit like that, trying to use the ills that were already present in the United States in lieu of class warfare, like what took place in Europe, in order to get their proletariat revolution. And they tried so many times, and this is about the closest they've ever been to actually being able to pull it off, because there's a natural progression of cultural decay that takes place when you displace the family structure. And while we do a lot of talking as a society about the nuclear family, the reality is before we were nuclear families, we were extended families, where your grandmother and your grandfather used to live within the household in order to pass on wisdom while the father was out there getting it and the mother was raising the children. Their jobs were to pass on the lessons that were learned in the past that we didn't necessarily have time to teach our children while we're out there getting it. And the more you displace that extended family, the more you have to rely on a nuclear family, which puts a larger burden on both the mother and the father. And then when we put women in the workplace, what we did was we actually displaced that nuclear family and all those moral lessons that needed to happen within the household. And I'm not just talking about moral lessons that you teach to your kids. Being an example is just as important as the lessons that we overtly teach them. Because if you teach them things that you don't live and embody in your daily lives, they'll end up embodying what you embody. They'll embody your example, and they'll ignore your words if your words are not conducive to the lifestyle that you live. And
hey,
the way
Julian, I want to put a sidebar. I want to put a sidebar on what you said, because most of us, from who are 35 and up, most of us grew up in that extended family where even that extended family was bigger than just your extended blood family. Because it's a cliche for some of us, but we all remember that was like any lady on your street, any older lady on your street could watch your kid, could watch you as a boy, and you might be playing with the neighbor kids up the street, or you might be playing with your cousin around the block, And if one of y'all get in trouble, all y'all getting the ass whipping. You know what I mean? Your grandmama gonna beat you, the lady up the street gonna whip you, and then when your daddy and mama get home, you finna get tore up again. People didn't realize that was the extended family you're talking about, where everybody could be a part of that because it was a community. For some of y'all who don't remember that, go look at some old clips of good times when James Evans whipped everybody kids ass, because he was the father for everybody who came in that house. Like the scene everybody remembers when Michael's bully came over there, the little short dude who looked like Prince, tried to keep him from studying and stuff, and he started talking smack to James, and James took his ass back in that room and went to work. You know what I'm saying? That's extended family. You know what I'm saying? I think he even said it in that scene.
And see, that's where the damage of gentrification really hits home. Is because when gentrification really hits a community, what they are attacking, what it actually attacks is that extended family. That extended family that extends beyond just your blood relatives, but to a community of elders looking after the youngsters. And I remember those days of messing around on a block and getting home and catching an ass whooping because I got caught out on the block doing some dumb shit. I remember those days growing up in Dayton, getting my ass whooped as soon as I walked in the house. But now my parents are divorced, and they've been divorced since I was 3, since they came back from England and got out of the service. However, at 12 years old, I moved up to New Hampshire with my dad as he started a new life so that I could be raised by my father. Because the years where I was becoming a man, I needed the example of a man to follow. And between that and the cultural decay, the natural progression of cultural decay that exists throughout generations in every single ethnicity on the planet, not just ours, and it's more prevalent in Western society than it is anywhere else. The reality is that we're facing headwinds that have persisted in academia far beyond anybody actually recognizing it, unfortunately. The people that were recognizing it back in the day when it all started were the people that we called naysayers, and we basically tarred and feathered them as not being woke enough, as not being hip to women's rights and civil rights and stuff. But what they were trying to lay down is a biblical understanding of what a man and what a woman should be and what a family should be and how society should be structured. And I'm not saying that should be legislated. I'm saying that those are cultural things that should be fought for in the culture. And unfortunately, in the Black community, our culture has been curated by people who are not of the culture and people who are not Black. Unfortunately, to that degree, as we saw with Captain Durag, this Black culture is often being curated by people who are not Black Americans. And unfortunately, the downside of that is that caricatures of the worst parts of the Black community are what is being put forward as the pinnacle of our culture. And that leaves all the beauty of our culture left to the side and thrown by the wayside. To the conscious forms of our music, to the very rhythm and beauty in the way we step and interact with each other, to the respect that we pay each other, to the way that men carry themselves on a daily basis. One thing that you do hear across women responding to dating app surveys is that Black men primarily are more masculine than almost all of our male counterparts, especially in this country. Unfortunately, there is also, you hear a lot of talk about toxic masculinity primarily amongst Black men, and it's unfortunately coming primarily from Black women. And it's primarily coming from Black women who don't actually like men. And I don't mean just misandrous, because me and Torin we've talked about that before, but I mean like flat out lesbians who legitimately don't like men. Now, I'm not referring to first and second wave feminists in this regard. I'm referring to third and fourth wave feminists. If you don't know the difference, I'll break it down real quick. First wave,
brother, please, man. I've been listening for 22 minutes. Why we validating what they think masculine? I don't understand men. Why do we care what toxic masculinity is? Like, why do we?
Hold on, now we gotta let him land. I know Julian, and yeah, he gives you a lot of detail, but we gotta let him. We gonna let him land, and then we gonna go around to the hands. But this stuff is necessary though, because we do have to have an understanding of the background of where a lot of this stuff comes from. Because sometimes it feels like we're punching air because we don't really want to delve into the depth to the weight of this stuff. So it is good to get this information. So let him finish, and then I'm gonna pass it to you, and then we're gonna go to the hands because we got new speakers waiting to talk. Hold on, wait for the mute to
I
go
know
off.
who Julian is. I'm asking him a direct question. If we can't have no damn dialogue in here, we just listen to each other talk. I'm asking him, why does this matter?
Hold on, wait for the. I don't know what's. Wait
That
for the mute
is
to go off.
important to. I'm trying to understand where he going because we steady talking. He's saying the
All right, all
toxic
right.
masculinity. I'm trying to see
So
where this
Hold on, let him
going.
finish.
sorry,
Let him finish. Go ahead.
that was a double mute. I was stuck on it. The reason I give the background and the quick breakdown of the four waves of feminism is because the four waves of feminism and the degradation of popular movements, especially cultural movements, is not exclusive to feminism. All right, all movements start with a basis of equal rights, then normalization of those rights, then militancy, and then regression. Where in the fourth wave, the third wave is militancy, and the fourth wave is regression. Where eventually, in order to keep the thing going, you end up arguing against what you initially argued for in the beginning. And you end up undoing the very foundation of what you were trying to accomplish. So you see the feminists doing this with militancy went from normalization of equal rights to I don't need a man, I don't want a man, men ain't shit, I can do everything a man can do. Then you have, because women in the fourth wave of regression, you have women taking the I can do everything a man can do and adopting the woman is a social construct at the same time, deconstructing what it is to be a woman and deconstructing everything it is to be a man and a woman at the same time. So now women are exchanging the worst of what it is to be a man for the best of what it is to be a woman, which puts us at adversarial positions as women tend to move further and further and further to the left, and men are staying pretty stagnant. There was a poll, a study that came out showing that women are getting drastically more progressive, but men ebb and flow over time, but stay pretty consistently in the exact same area. And there hasn't been a real cultural shift amongst men until recently, where more men are getting more in touch with their faith, more men are going back to church, more men are getting healthy, are seeking mental help, and things of that sort. There's a cultural, more conservative shift of men basically taking back our place in society. And then when it comes to Black men specifically, the brother was right earlier when he said, if you can take down Black men, you can take down everything. If you can take down the Black man and the Black community, you can take down the entire Black community. We are the shields for our community. And unfortunately, I honestly, I don't know how, other than to watch this new ebb and flow and new trajectory play out, I don't know how else we can undo it other than to watch the pendulum swing.
All right.
That's why I
Thank you.
was
Hold on.
asking them that.
Hold on, Rick. Hold on, Rick. I'm gonna bring you in because we got about 8 or 9 speakers that want to get. Hold what you got, Rick. I'm gonna run through everybody, then we'll swing back around. Let's go to Twizzle, and then we'll go to the Hood Conservative, and then we'll go to a couple other people. I'm trying to bring people in. I'm gonna tell you right now, if you got a weird handle, and I can see you naked on this thing, you're not gonna speak because I know the character's getting ready to start coming in here now, and I know some of the people who are drastically opposed to the things we're talking about here. Probably the words probably going around Twitter now, and they'll start coming through here. I'm not gonna bring in Deep Stroke 85 or nothing like that. So if you got a weird name, you're not gonna get on here tonight. So either change what you got, fix your picture, and then I'll let you speak. I'm hip to characters tonight. So go ahead, Twizzle, and then we'll go to Ian again. Then we'll go to the Hood Conservative, and then we'll go to Back for What, and then we'll swing back around to the older speakers. So go ahead, you got the mic.
Hey, thank you. Thank you, Tori. Shout out to you, man. Shout out to you on this good hump day. Shout out to the room. Shout out to the brothers in the room. Shout out to you, Tony. Much respect, Elder. And that's one thing I want to speak on. I want to speak on the title of the room, especially the video where Clifton Powell had to sit down with, I should say, I'm going to be respectful, the young man And as some of the gentlemen stated, I agree. He sounded kind of emotional. And not only that, he sounded kind of feminine. It sounded like that he was in his feelings, as y'all stated, something I didn't know as I listened to. It sounded like he's caught up in past trauma. And it's something Clifton Powell said that was key and that was fact. And I loved him for it to where, as Clifton Powell said, everything you talking about, I lived it. He said, "You're a young man. I'm in my 60s. I lived it," meaning I have this experience. And by me having this experience, young man, I think this is something that you need to listen to. And that's something my dad always told me. And shout out to the men who grew up around fathers or men that's in the household. Because one thing for sure, two things for certain, you're not going to know it until you grow through it. You know what I mean? You can read all the books in the world, watch all the videos, and listen to all the stories. But until you get into the fray, you're not going to know what it is because you're not going to know the temperature of the room, the environment. Not only that, the whiff of the smell. You know what I'm saying? So I want to give a shout out to the room and the men in here because Tori, this is something that we need. We need more male masculine spaces like this because there are a lot of young men in these spaces that's hurting. I hear it all the time in their voices. That's why you can hear the emotion in their voice. You can hear the frustration. Not only that, you can hear the pain, but yet a lot of them don't know how to reach out without them feeling weak and emotional. You know what I'm saying? But I just want to say one thing for sure, two things for certain. A man cannot be emotional. You know what I mean? No matter what we going through, no matter what, you have to learn how to keep it to yourself because at the end of the day, don't nobody care. You know what I mean? The moment you learn that and learn that you are all you got, that's the pure definition of independence because nobody care about you. You know, men at it when they get to a certain age, they are supposed to leave home. You're supposed to leave home, find your way, find your fortune, and build your own. Because nobody's going to give it to you, especially us black men in here. And I want to give a shout out to us because who care about us? Nobody. You know, I know one thing for sure, two things for certain. We all been through shit. We all got shit going on and as life go on. We are all going to go through shit. And who's going to care? Nobody. But to the title in the room, certain individuals always have opinion about what men should be on how men are supposed to act in their definition of a man, but yet they don't walk in these shoes. You know, my whole thing is I want to teach men and teach the young dudes and help the young dudes because I was there. Just like some of y'all, I come from the streets of Oakland. I come from poverty. I come from when the motherfucking social workers used to come through the house and take us out of there and put me and my sister in foster homes. I know about the first and the 15th. I know about living off a pot of beans for a week. You know what I'm saying? I come from them days. And shout out to the brothers who do because we are some of the realest that's living. You know, we have that experience and we had that hardship and that suffering that taught us if we F up, that's where we got to go. You know what I'm saying? So shout out to everybody in this room, man, because I can go on and on, but I want to be respectful because I know it's a lot of people that want to speak. But first thing first, I'm just going to end it on this. We all have to be men because nobody's going to care and nobody's going to give a F about us, you know? And the most important thing, we are accountable for everything we do. We can't point no fingers, we can't blame nobody, or we can't run and go get nobody. You have to stand on your own square. And if you're not standing on your own square, you ain't capable of having shit. Shout out to you, man. Peace.
All right, appreciate you, bro. I will push back on one thing. I don't think it's necessarily that we have the black men have to keep everything in because that's dangerous as well, just for our own physical safety and our psychological well-being. I think we just have to be very, very discerning about who we allow into our immediate space, physically and psychologically, because you don't want to let somebody in your world to give somebody a stick to crack your head open with, as my old people, as my elders used to say. I think we just have to be more discerning about that. And I think sometimes we get so caught up because we hold all this stuff inside of us and we got so much stuff put on us that we don't know where to let it go at, and we don't know how to be able to vent that in a way that's going to be productive, that's going to be beneficial to us and other people around us. So I think we have to lead the door before that stuff. We just have to be very careful. But I want to go around the room and get some more people in here. I know we got some people been waiting for a long time, and again, I appreciate you waiting. It's just a real good conversation. I'm gonna bring in AGI, and I see a couple people dropping down. Then I see Dre. I'm gonna go to Dre. Matter of fact, if y'all could do me a favor, put your hands up. That'll be easier for me and for y'all, so I can keep an order in here. So I'm gonna go to AGI, then Dre, then we'll go to Marquez, so Marquise, and then Ian again. And I see you up there, Rick and Tony. Please stay on because I do want to round out this part of the conversation with something that I know is your field of expertise, and we'll let people know about that later. So AGI, microphone is yours. Go ahead. AGI.
Hey, what's up, man? Listen, great room, great discussion. I'm coming in late, so I didn't hear